All right, all right. We are back at the podcast studio. We're doing it virtually today because somebody was smart to get out of the Northeast for the terrible weather. And we have John from Jigging Jerks on YouTube and Just Fishing Charters online. John, welcome. Thanks for coming on today.
Hey, Tom, great to be here, and thank you for having me.
I love the name Jigging Jerks. And now you've been using YouTube for years now, and you have over 17,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, which is nothing to sneeze about. So, how did you get involved with this online YouTube, and how did that translate into kind of the fishing boat charter business?
Yeah, so I clearly we're going to go back 40 years for the genesis of the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more than 40. But since I was a kid, I was a fisherman. I love fishing. It's my dad and I would go fishing all the time. Every day that we could, we fished.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Queens, in
Mm-hmm.
Astoria, Queens,
Sure.
but we had our I'm Greek American, and um, it, it, there's this thing with Greeks where you all congregate to a specific area for your vacations. You don't go to Disney World. You don't go to California, Hawaii. You have a weekend home, and that's where every vacation. Like literally, I'd never been on a plane till I was much older.
Uh-huh.
So my parents, my uncles and aunts, we all had homes on the North Fork of Long Island, Mattatuck, our home since the late 70s. Yeah, that was my childhood growing up, summers and weekends, and fishing. And I was addicted to fishing from the first time I tried it. Uh, and yeah, it just kept going and going through college, post-college. My, when I started working, that was my respite from everything, was fishing. And you mentioned the YouTube. Back in 2017, I was fortunate enough, by pure happenstance, to meet and become very friendly with one of the legendary Northeast fishermen, a gentleman named John Skinner, who has a much larger YouTube presence than I do, over 150,000 subscribers. He, I met him at a fishing show. Somehow we connected and started fishing together. And after about a year of that, and really reliving all those wonderful fishing moments you have with your friends.
Sure.
I said to him, "What do you think if I start a channel?" And he said, "Absolutely, go for it." And because we're sort of rivers, and we bust each other's hump when we're fishing, and we fish a style of fishing known as jigging. The name Jigging Jerks was coined by him, and that's how the channel name was created. And yeah, that was in 2018, I started the channel. And as you mentioned, about 17,000 subscribers. But for me, more importantly, it's critically allowed me to quit my corporate job. I worked in finance for 20 years. I was a fairly senior person at my company, and it was just getting brutal. And not from a pay perspective, but really when you manage people, what the things you have to do that you have no control over, outsourcing jobs, and forced ranking of employees, and in the ever competitive environment where clients are looking to save money and they pass that on to you, it got to be a vicious cycle where we were expected to bring in and do more with a lot less.
Uh-huh.
And I just decided at some point, I can't do this anymore. For my own mental well-being, I'd rather do something I love. And I was fortunate, a year after starting the YouTube channel, starting a part-time charter business. So I would take clients out. I went and got my Coast Guard credentials, the
Uh-huh.
license, call it, allowing me to take up to 6 people. And I would do that part-time. And last year I decided, last January, a year ago today, actually, January 17 of 24, that I'd had enough with the corporate job and decided, let me give it a go doing the chartering full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, best decision I ever made.
That's awesome. And so now on the charters, you just do the 6-pack charters?
Just 6-pack. And actually I have a smaller boat. I have a 24-foot boat. So it's really limited to 4 people, but the fishing we do is generally really, really good for the area we fish. We get into some very big, what folks in Jersey call flounder. Those of us north of Jersey call it fluke. We get a really good springtime striped bass bite. We get an excellent tautog / blackfish bite in the fall. And my prices, I think, reflect the fact that there's fewer people. Plus, you have the sort of the interesting part where your trip is being filmed, and that trip will last forever, as well, as long as YouTube doesn't undergo a TikTok fate. As forever as YouTube will be around, you can always click on a link and rewatch the trip you had.
You're recording the whole trip?
I'm recording the whole trip. Now, clearly, no one wants to watch that. So there's a ton of editing, as I'm sure your staff knows that when something like this gets produced, it's more than just interviewing somebody and, playing back from start to finish. There's a lot of editing that goes on. You obviously want to really show the highlights, but I do have the camera rolling the entirety of the trip.
Yep. That's awesome. So, and people must love that. They could share it with their friends. They could, watch it again.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's the best advertising.
Yeah.
I literally don't advertise anywhere, and I turn away a lot of business because, there's only X amount of days you can go out during the season, and the demand is there to take people out.
Yep. And now the interest and so you're putting this all on your channel, and then that's turning into new leads for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I
mean, it doesn't get better than that, does it? I mean, you're doing something you love. You quit your corporate job. You have fulfilled, that you're now doing something you love. And then on top of that, you're taking these guys out and you're getting leads from it because your channel has the activity. And again, in Mattatuck, Long Island, it's not around the corner from anywhere. So, you're drawing an interest of people that are traveling to see you in a lot of cases.
So I have one regular client who travels up now twice a year from North Carolina. I had a client last year from Virginia. I have a ton of clients from New Jersey. I'd say Jersey is probably my number one client destination. I think I get more clients from Jersey than anywhere else. So,
really?
Yeah, so it's been great. And I get paid through YouTube too. I am a monetized channel.
Yep.
And it's not life-changing money, but it certainly pays my health insurance every month, since now I'm responsible for that. And most months it's my health insurance, my groceries, a lot of my living expenses just from that. And then the charter income really just becomes the gravy on top.
That's great. And you're doing what you love. So it's not like you're working.
Well, you are working. They are long days. That's why I particularly, now this is the first time I'm experiencing it, because it's the first year I did it full time. But my goal going into this was work your ass off during the season. I mean, you're waking up at 4 a.m. I'm leaving my house at 4:30. Most of my charters start at 6 a.m. I'm prepping the boat, getting the rods ready, ice, all that stuff, starting the engines, checking the electronics, doing all that. And then you're back between usually 2:30 and 3, filleting fish, cleaning the boat. You're doing this by yourself, no mate. But you're looking at it from the perspective is A, I'm doing something I love, and B, I'm going to have 6 months off, 5.5 months off when this is all said and done to, not worry about anything.
Sure.
Not wake up when you want to wake up, live a relatively stress-free life. And I feel like I'm hijacking you here, Tom. I'm not letting you ask questions, but a lot of that
You're doing great. You're doing great. I love it. And you know what? You're telling your story. You're telling your story on grit and how you've changed and how you've made it so that you're running your day, that no one's running your day for you.
Correct. Thank you. But none of this would have been possible without really fiscal responsibility and not living an extravagant lifestyle. I mentioned in the beginning, we bought our home in Mattatuck in 1979, and that was our vacation. And I guess it shouldn't come as a shock that a lot of those lessons you learn from your parents carry on. And I was very diligent about saving money, investing, setting aside 50% of my paycheck into investments and savings accounts and not spending beyond my means. And, I'm 53 now. I decided to retire at 52, and I could only do that because I had a nest egg put away. And that was my goal doing this, that ostensibly I'll live paycheck to paycheck off the charter and YouTube stuff, but with the comfort that I have a really decent nest egg put away and working for itself in the background. And my goal this year was, let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can do what I love, have a great time with great people from, all from North Carolina up to Connecticut. That's where most of my clients are from, and not have to touch any of that stuff I put away, and it'll continue to grow in the background. And when I'm really ready to retire at, 61, 62 years old, I'll have a decent amount of money waiting for me where I don't even have to do the charter.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and again, I think that you think about this smart. You kind of bucket it. Your health insurance and groceries are getting paid from that. You have the charters, and you have the charters that you want to keep pushing out, and those are the living expense money, and that's so that you can afford yourself time off in the winter, and probably go to the nice Florida area and relax, and then back at it come spring. Make sure the boat's ready to go in the water, tested, ready, and everything like that, right?
That's it exactly, Tom. And again, not
I'm
to be
jealous.
a dead horse here, but none of that would be possible if it wasn't for really living within your means and being diligent about saving and investing. And and look, when I was young, when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, I spent well beyond my means, and I got in trouble. And at some point a light bulb clicked on, and it's like I went from the most irresponsible saver to fanatical about it.
Yep.
And again, you really have to think long term and think, where do I see myself, not, next week, next month, but where do I want to be, in 20 years, 25 years? And there's no reason anyone listening to this, if you're a younger person, can't be in the same situation.
Definitely. Now, what's interesting? I just kind of tell me a little bit more. Like, so you grew up in Queens, and it's if you live in Queens, you come out to Long Island. If you live in Brooklyn, you go to the Jersey Shore usually. So, but you were vacationing and you had the summer house in Mattatuck. But Mattatuck is a very far out area. When you kind of went to go live on your own, you decided to stay there, huh?
Yeah.
Did you just like that lifestyle out there? Because also when you're talking about that was in a time when it was even less populated than it is today.
Yeah, it was it was all potato farms. There was a lot of Polish people and potato farms back then on the North Fork. For me, there's no place better on the face of the earth than the North Fork. I come down to Florida for a couple months, and I get homesick real quick. And the weather is great here in the winter, and I miss the brunt of the, January and February, the two worst winter months up in the Northeast. That's the only thing that, I truly am grateful for when I come down here. To me, nothing beats the beauty of the North Fork. I will, if I'm not chartering, I go take a long walk down to the beach. It's a 10-minute walk from my house to the beach, and it's all old glaciers, it's all hills. You're looking at stunning scenery. You have all sorts of wildlife. It's so serene. And by nature, even though people are shocked when I tell them this, I'm an introvert. I am very comfortable.
You what?
I'm an introvert. I'm very comfortable in a public setting, but there's nothing I hate more than things like this, and I mean that respectfully. It's not my.
Oh, Andrew, you didn't want to do it then.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm the type of person that hates going to parties, hates going to bars, hates going to restaurants.
Yeah.
When I'm somewhere, I'm the first person that's going to leave, always. I'm also somebody that could be trapped on a deserted island and not be miserable. And it's weird because when people meet me, they think how is that possible?
I don't see it in you, you know.
You have to trust me when I tell you. Yeah,
I
there's
believe you.
something
I'll go
inside
with you.
me that that doesn't work well with public settings. So for me, it's a perfect situation, especially in the winter. When I go back late February, early March, it's so desolate out there. There's the tourists are gone. The people that spend more time there in the summers are gone. They don't come out, and you truly might go days without seeing anybody unless you go to a store.
Hmm. That's wild. So, but you love it. So that's
Yeah,
home.
it's what works for me.
Yeah.
I understand it sounds crazy because I'm sure 95% of the people listening to will not be able to relate to that, but it's what makes me happy.
You know what's interesting? Down, we're on the Jersey Shore, as you know, and there's a lot of where we are. There's some very seasonal areas where the population's a third of what it is in the July August time frame. So I understand that. When I first moved to Jersey, we lived in a town called Point Pleasant Beach, my wife and I, and in the winter it was so quiet down there. Now more and more people I feel like are working from home and doing so that there's more people here in the winters than when I first got down here 15 years ago. But again, I'm from Long Island, but I know Mattatuck, from when I was on Long Island, is just an area that's just on the North Fork and kind of secluded.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I did a video for my family, that just a drone video of Boca Raton where I am now
Sure.
and Mattatuck. And you really like here, you look outside and you think, wow, palm trees, it's beautiful. But when that drone goes up and you see how congested it is, and the traffic here is like worse than anything you've seen in Long Island. Picture the LIE on your
Oh,
worst day. That's down here at every day at about 4:30. And then you do the same kind of shot over the North Fork of Long Island, and it's just serenity. The houses are
yes.
spread apart. You don't see a mass of cars. You see the beautiful water. So for me, nothing. I consider myself lucky for many reasons, and perhaps the luckiest part is that where I live, it's just beautiful.
That's awesome. So now the idea for next season and beyond is you're going to do the charters during the summer. You're going to continue your YouTube, and do you see is there any other plans that you want to accomplish with this, or is
Nope,
that the plan?
that's the plan, Tom. That's the other thing. Even with my corporate work, I was kind of like an accidental manager. You know, I joined the company I worked at for almost 20 years. I got a couple quick promotions. I was ecstatic at the time. I was young, energetic. I got to travel all over the world. But at a certain point, I just didn't want any more responsibility. And they kept giving it to me, and it almost against the will, where a lot of people move ahead, through viciousness and Machiavellian tactics. I really considered myself like the accidental director. I didn't want it.
Yeah.
I would have been happy just making the salary I made and dealing with my small team and dealing with my clients that I had, and that's it. But I kept getting pushed up, and I don't want to say against my will because I could have said no, but um, at a certain point, it it got overwhelming, and I don't aspire to do more than I'm doing now, and I'm quite happy doing that. I have great clients like we talked about, from North Carolina to Connecticut. I fish with them every year. I get to fish too. They pay me. We have a lot of laps, and it's a great life.
John, you know what the best part is? The definition of success is different for everybody. And you found the definition of success in what you're doing. You got out of the corporate world, you saved money so that you were able to afford yourself to do this at such a young age. Most people can't, kind of step away in their early 50s. You were able to do that. You now do what you love doing. I think you've made it. I think you nailed it.
Yeah,
Everybody's got to figure
I'm
out what that
ecstatic,
success
believe
equals
me.
to them and be ecstatic about it. Sounds like you wake up every day, you're happy. You're not, and when you're in
And not
Marathon, you see
stressed, Tom. That's the
yeah,
thing. That's the thing. It got not to belabor another point, but it got to the point where working in corporate America became so brutal, and not because of the work and not because of the people you work with, but because of, and look, I'm a capitalist, so I don't mean this in any bad way, but you work for some of these larger companies that are all publicly traded, and they become beholden to their stockholders, not
Sure.
necessarily the clients, not necessarily the employees, especially not the employees. And it becomes cutthroat.
Yep.
And
I left
it
corporate
sucks.
15 years ago to go out on my own. My feeling was I could do it better. Again, I was a young guy. I was in my late 20s, and I said I could do it. I could do this better. And I went out on my own. I love what I do. I run Wingman Planning, the web and marketing company. I have the podcast. I also am an investor in a couple other companies, and I love it. If I had going back in time, I'd do the same thing. In my case, I work longer hours and harder for it, but I also love the fact of the satisfaction of the customers and doing, great things in the community. But I talked to there's a few of the guys that I used to work with 15 years ago that I still text with and stuff like that. And, they're always worried about the next layoff and, they're getting a cutback and, to your point, you have to rank employees and you're doing that stuff. And again, it takes the fun out of what you're doing because, again, you're working for the stockholders and you're working not for what's best always for the company or for the clients. Whereas I know I'm working for what's best for the client and my employees.
Very well said, Tom. Agree with
So,
everything you said 100%.
it's hard, but it depends. Everybody's in a different position in their life and have different, obligations and things like that. So I understand how it happens, but I wish that more people could do and work, at doing what they love doing. Like, it sounds like both you and I, do. So, how do people find you on, your YouTube channel? What's the best way? Just searching,
Search Jigging Jerks, fishing. That I also have a website, Just Fishing Long Island. Those are the two best ways. I have social media too, but I'm not a good social media person.
You're a
Despite
good YouTube
the
guy.
YouTube stuff. It's really those two are the main ways
Perfect.
to learn more about me.
This was a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you taking time out of your January day here to
Not my busy day, Tom.
yeah. But this was great. I love what you're doing, and you know what I think the best part is you doing what you love, and no one could take that away from you. And I hope that more entrepreneurs start to think about what it is that they love. And again, you have to make enough money to support yourself and your family, but at the same time, when you do what you love, it's like not working at all.
That's it, exactly. And I appreciate you having me on, Tom. This was a lot of fun.
You were great. Keep doing great things, and I look forward to checking out the channel and watching some fishing this year.
Thank you, Tom.
Have a great day.
You too.